Welcome back guys, I'm Cringeestar, first year medical student studying at Queen Mary University in London this year. I make videos on productivity, balancing gym and help students on the medicine application process. I'm an advocate for theism and my main aim is to help people live a happy and healthy life, and I'm hoping I can bring you on the journey with me.
I got 200 views in the last video. That's so shambolic. Anyway, oh man, these videos are legit killing my channel, but what can you do? Hello? Okay, so assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's Cringeestar, first year medical student. As you can tell, this video series is killing my channel. Imagine like 200-300 views the last video. That's shambolic, I can't lie to you. This medical school interview series isn't going that well, but the content's good. So I'm not gonna stop until I hit the millions of subscribers, you know what I'm saying? But on to the topic of today's video. Today we're going to have 5 medical students from Queen Mary University of London, and there's going to be 6, including me, the joke that I made 2 weeks in a row. And the question that they're going to answer is, what's the difference between sympathy as well as empathy, and give an example of how you'd go about like explaining it using the star format. If you stick to the end, inshallah ta'ala, there's a banging tip by Mr. Abu Torab himself. If you don't know, go check him out. Wallahi, I link him so many times. Later on, don't you dare say it wasn't me who helped you grow. Shush. On a side note, these videos might not be for everyone, so if you're here for the more juicy type of content, vlogs, that sort of stuff, go check out my other channel. What am I talking about? Then go check out some of my previous vlogs. But if you're here for the medical school content, which probably is the majority of you, sadly it's at 200 views. One last thing, please. Today's sponsors are MedShark, my own company. Now, these videos are like the baby to what's actually inside the ebook. The ebook is £3.49 because I know what it means to be broke, and it has some of the questions or close to the questions of what I got last year in my actual medical school interviews. I hope you benefit, and inshallah ta'ala, timestamps are going to be at the bottom. On top of that, there's going to be a small bar that goes, I'm probably pointing the wrong side, let me try this side, here to here. When that bar ends, obviously the video is going to change or get on to the next person. So if you want, just skip via that. But with no further ado, may Allah bless you big time, and Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, so this interview question, not all universities ask, but it's always good to be prepared for this sort of question where they're asking you to compare 2 definitions or skills for like resilience and hard work or something along the sort like that. So you need to define each of these terms, and then what will make you stand out at interview level is if you can relate this to a specific example of where you've seen this or where you've shown this or anything of the sort. So it could be work experience or anything to do with the sort. Work experience is really key. So the big mistake that I made when I was applying to medical school is that I did not pay attention during my work experience at all. So when it came to interview time and writing personal statements, I really had to think hard. So to save all of that, you'll be much better off if you're literally observing everything during your work experience. That's crucial, because you'll find that there's incidences that happen during your work experience that you can relate to more than one question or even overlap them depending on what they ask. So define the terms and then always relate to your work experience or any personal examples that you have.
Okay, Abdulmajeed, the last question, may Allah bless you abundantly, is what is the difference, in your opinion, between empathy and sympathy? And when have you demonstrated empathy, essentially?
So to me, empathy is being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes, sort of connect to them on a deeper and emotional level to understand what they're going through. Again, this is very, very important in the medical field, because in my work experience, I saw how one of my doctors constantly showed empathy on a day-to-day basis. An example was there was a consultation where he had to sort of describe Weinberg episodes, which is this condition where the heart is enlarged and it struggles to beat. And he sort of had to put himself in the patient's shoes, understand that they may not necessarily understand it, or they may have struggle accepting it. So he had to sort of like try to change his approach on the way he delivered the information. He had to try to make it less impactful and less direct, so it doesn't make them feel upset in any way. And I think that is a very important skill to have, especially on a day-to-day basis. If you're connecting with patients, you're going to have to put yourself in their shoes to understand their pain and what they're going through in order to deliver the best possible treatment to them. During my work experience, I volunteered at Ellesmere House Care Home, and just sort of seeing how the elderly were affected by their condition. One elderly person in particular was suffering from dementia. And I remember very vividly how one day they were playing a tune for us on the piano, but because of their dementia, they forgot that they were playing for us, and they constantly repeated the same tune. And that really sort of affected me in my heart, because I saw how his neurological condition was affecting his day-to-day life, how he could no longer perform his daily functions and even sort of understand what he was doing. And I had to sort of empathize, put myself in his shoes, and sort of see the impact, the negative impact that his disease had on his life. And that's a very, very important skill as a doctor. So I think that compared to sympathy, whereas you just sort of understand this is what someone's going through, empathy is a lot more vital, because you actually understand what they're going through. You actually put yourself in their shoes. So those two experiences, combining what I saw at the care home and what the doctor displayed, it really sort of highlighted the importance of that. And I hope that one day, if I'm a doctor, I'm still empathetic to my patients, and hopefully I understand what they're going through.
Okay, so before we go on answering the question, imagine I've been in this room for like 20-30 minutes trying to take a thumbnail. The longest thing ever. Now, in terms of the way that I'd go about answering where have you displayed teamwork or empathy or any competency of that matter, so first and foremost, I would, like with the question, I would make sure that I know the difference between empathy and sympathy. And the standard answer everyone's going to give is like going into the boots of the person. With empathy and sympathy, just understanding their problem and not necessarily the person and what they're going through. A standard case could be like sympathy is you've lost a child, well, you got two more, you know what I'm saying? It's not too bad. Like, yeah, it does put it in perspective, but that's not a way to go about comforting someone. It may work for you, and you can say that to yourself, understandable. It helps you realize the blessings of God upon you. But with someone else, take a different approach. So whether it be taking them to a coffee, like the way that you'd give da'wah or you'd give sincere advice to someone, essentially. That's what's required in empathy. Now, answering a competency question, approach it in the STAR format. And I do mention this in the ebook, which is situation, task, action, and results. Always mention a result where you've seen it, potentially in a clinical scenario. In this case, for a med interview, what's required is sometimes to link it to where you've seen it in the placement. So whether it be potentially you've seen the doctor and the nurse or the radiographer looking at the angiogram and communicating when placing a stent up the specific nerve, not nerve, before my teacher sees this, but up like a certain vessel, whether it be artery or vein, embolization essentially, and how from this you've learned the importance of being careful and diligent with your instructions. And then you can talk about how you were using it, building a Raspberry Pi, which is not the normal Raspberry Pi computer chip program, and then link it to another experience where, for example, for me, it would be like Robo Wars, where I was a part of like a competition, and you link in something else, potentially something like PBL. But again, just remember at the end of it that they're looking for something that isn't too but isn't too over the top and isn't crazy as well. And 1 second, so I'm banging on the door. That was a little bit mad, Mike. The way she banged on the door, like, what the hell, man. Sometimes you just don't want to say anything. But anyway, just summarizing, just remember something that isn't too over the top, that they think that you made up the story, and something that isn't the standard. Working in a team, tutoring someone. Let's be real, when you work in a part of a team tutoring someone, but it is what it is, and I hope that's helped you. Remember, link it to your clinical scenario, show where you've reflected upon it and where you've implemented it, and show the result by it as well, and hopefully it should be fine, God willing, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so Habibi, the last question I'm going to ask you is, can you define, or not necessarily define, but describe the difference between empathy and sympathy, and give me an example where you've demonstrated empathy?
Right, so for me, from what I understand, empathy is understanding what a person is feeling and being able to relate to it. Whereas sympathy is similar to kind of pitying someone and saying, oh, well, that kind of feels bad. I think empathy is a deeper level of emotional connection, that one that all doctors should strive for. Because with sympathy, things may, you may think to yourself, well, I wouldn't want to be that guy. It kind of sucks to be in that position. But when you have empathy, you can understand how people are feeling about things, and that's very important. Being able to understand how your patients are feeling gives you a good idea of what they're going through, not just physically, but also mentally and psychologically. And one time that I have demonstrated empathy during my work experience, I went on ward rounds and I saw one patient who, they told me everything they'd experienced up until this point. It was a trauma hospital, and they ended up in it because of an accident. Now, I didn't understand at first. At first I just felt sympathy. I just thought, well, it kind of sucks to be in that position. I feel bad for you that that's happened, but nothing more. And then gradually, as they began talking more and more, I began understanding how this person truly felt.
Okay, sympathy definitively is feeling sad for someone. Empathy is, I guess, to the same extent feeling sad, but also with a level of understanding of how they feel. How most people describe it is you put yourself in their shoes. A friend's mum passed away from cancer. I just listened and talked to her, and I guess just justified how she felt, tried to understand what she was feeling.
You've displayed empathy. So this is essentially any situation in which you have had to put yourself in the shoes of somebody else. So if you're taking care of someone, if that's ever been a case for you, so if there's someone that you need to take care of, not necessarily for long term, it could be just babysitting someone. That's an example of you having responsibility and having to be able to understand what the person you're taking care of is going through and be able to navigate through that.
Okay, so Matt, may Allah bless you guys for making it to the end of the video. And if you're a real one, and I know I've done this 3 videos in a row, but if you're a real one, put a volcano emoji in the comment section below. Check out the other video series that's going to be at the end of the video itself, on that play card thingy, and you know how I end the video. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.
So one more thing is that you wanna get a girlfriend.
Yeah. That'll be in the video. No. Right at the end, the bloopers.